well, no, don't affiliate me with that. I'm not crazy. I'm not a lesbian, and I'm not, I'm not going to shave my hair off tomorrow and stop wearing bras and stop shaving and, hate all men, and all these things. And I don't want to cook or wear pink. And so for me, it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, I feel like whenever there's a movement, whether it's, civil rights, or we had the Black Panthers and people were critical with them, or others, when there's people who are oppressed and trying to take a stand, it's not neat.
Who's ready for some girl talk?
Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Nicole D. Miller, author, blogger, speaker, hybrid book publisher, and your host. At Girl Talk, we are a safe space for female leaders to engage in healing and edifying conversation. This is your Me Too empathetic corner, where we have authentic and transformative dialogue designed to uplift and connect high-achieving women like you. Are you looking for a safe space to cultivate sisterhood with other like-minded female bosses? Leave your cape at the door and join the conversation. Hi guys, and welcome to Girl Talk. Girl Talk began in 2022 when, in the thick of the pandemic, I pulled a few of my fellow female leaders into a conversation on Zoom, having no idea it was the beginning of a movement. I was inspired by a question I received from a guy I was dating. Was I a feminist? I honestly didn't know and was even surprised to be perceived as one. Though the relationship fizzled, it served its purpose, and Girl Talk was born. In 2023, we moved into in-person sessions and currently meet quarterly, where a panel of women tackle the latest topic before opening the floor to the audience for Q&A. This first episode was definitely us shooting out the gate, which is perfect because I think it shows we are mission-minded, laser-focused, and when we come together, we pack a powerful punch. We invite you into this thought-provoking episode, Are You a Feminist?, where we explore one of the most impactful social movements in history and its relevance today. This conversation is led by panelists Audra Bradfield, Alysha Ellis, Jennah Lear, Jamia Lewis, Esperanza Gallon, Lisa Nichols, and facilitated by yours truly, Nicole D. Miller. Feminism. It's a word with power, history, and complexity. A word that can evoke pride, hesitation, or even discomfort, depending on who you talk to. This conversation isn't just about definitions or labels. It's about personal experiences, evolving perspectives, and the stories that shape how we view equality. Today we'll hear from 6 remarkable women, leaders, thinkers, and trailblazers. Some wear the title of feminist like a badge of honor, while others tread more cautiously, questioning how it fits into their lives and values. Each voice adds a unique thread to the tapestry of this conversation, offering insight and inspiration. Whether you stand firmly on one side of the question, feel unsure, or have never deeply considered it before, this discussion is an invitation to reflect. Why do you or not consider yourself a feminist? And perhaps more importantly, how might your answer shift by the end of the discussion? So relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we dig into the heart of our take on feminism. You just might discover something new about the movement, about the world, about yourself. Conversation I had with this guy that I was kicking it with, I guess. And, it kind of just planted a seed in my mind. Do I think that I am a feminist? So
I'm going to participate in this discussion as well, so y'all can, listen to my thoughts. I know I sent over some questions, so we'll kind of piggyback off of those. But first and foremost, I just want to introduce myself to those who don't know me since this is being streamed. I am Nicole D, author of Stories for the Urban Soul, a compilation of stories, novellas, poetry, introducing Black characters in infiltrating spirituality. And you can learn more at NicoleDMiller.com. So if you ladies want to go ahead, start off, just introduce yourself, what you do, maybe how people can contact you, and then just something fun, like what do you like to do for fun? And we can just go in a circle. Lisa, Audra, Jennah, Jamia.
So I am Lisa Nichols. I am the CEO and founder of Love Your Niche. And what I do is I partner with leaders to own and define their value and to cultivate high-performing, engaging, human-centered teams. And so you can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or Facebook at Love Your Niche on Facebook and Instagram. And I would love to connect with you.
Yay.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lisa. I'm Audra Bradfield, recently Carol. I work at Nemours Children's Hospital here in Florida. We are actually also located up north. Like we're one of the few multi-state children's hospitals. And so I'm a continuous improvement specialist. And what that means, because I usually get a blank stare whenever I say that, I spend most of my time coaching our C-suite, our president of the hospital system, as well as our frontline associates on Lean or Six Sigma. So process improvement, efficiency. And really for us, it's really important to drive waste out of our processes so that we're not asking our associates to do more with less or compromising the care and the service that we're giving to our patients, especially that we get the courtesy or actually privilege of serving children. And so that's what I do all the time. When I'm not doing that, I love dancing. As you guys probably saw recently on a TikTok, whenever Nicole comes, she TikToks. I don't TikTok. I don't.
I can't.
I don't do all that stuff, but when Nicole's around, I'll do it with her. And so folks can reach me on LinkedIn. Happy to be here with all of you guys.
Thank you for putting me on blast. I think is Jamia or Jennah's next. Okay.
Okay, I'll go.
Go ahead.
Thanks for having me. This is super fun. If you don't know me, my name's Jennah Lear. I own Blue Louie Studio. I am a brand strategist and I work with purpose-driven women entrepreneurs to help them create and grow a powerful brand. So they can learn how to position themselves as the go-to expert and then as a result, attract dreamy clients and customers and really step into making some bold moves in your business. And I believe kind of really looking at the next level, playing bigger, stepping into making some power moves, if you call it, your brand is the key. And so that's what I do in my business. You can contact me on Instagram. We're Blue, like the color, BLUE, Louie, LOUI, Studios, STUDIOS. Or you can, if you're a fellow women business owner, you can join us on Facebook. I have a Facebook group full of 700 women, fellow women business owners called Six Figure Maven. And when I'm not doing all that, what do I like to do for fun? Well, every Monday, I've actually started to ask myself this question and be super intentional about it this year so that I could really take care of myself this year. That was like one of my goals. And so every Monday I go play basketball and that is like my happy place. So that's what I do.
My name is Jamia and I'm a lot of things. I do a lot of things. Professionally speaking, I'm an educator. I've been teaching for nearly 15 years now. And I know, like, Nicole, I saw your face. Like, I know it trips me out too. Like, it's crazy. But so I'm an educator. Also, the host of the soon to be launched Thanksgivers podcast. So I've been working on getting that off the ground. So I'll be excited for that to be out in the world for all to listen soon. For fun, time with my family. family and friends. Just always, I could be doing anything with them, but just time with them is precious to me and highly enjoyable. And as far as how people can reach me, you can get in contact with me a number of ways. On Instagram, I'm not really a great Instagram user, but I'm trying to develop that. So that's at the Thanksgivers podcast. On Instagram, on Twitter, it's at the Thanksgivers. You probably have a better chance of reaching me on Twitter than you do on Instagram.
Thank you, Jamia.
I am Esperanza Gallon. I am owner of a counseling private practice here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been a counselor for a little over 8 years. And yeah, that's a lot of my professional life. You could find me on my personal Instagram at Distinct Hope. And for fun, I love to eat. I love to travel. I like going for like walks in nature, especially the beach.
All right. Last but not least, we're working around the last base here. My name is Alysha Ellis. I'm also into a lot of different things. To keep it brief, Mosleray is my latest new venture. I started this business 2 years ago. I'm a serial entrepreneur. It means more light. Website is Mosleray, Instagram, Facebook, and ultimately I help people share their stories and uplift voices. So we do that through podcasts, blogs, video interviews, and unique events. So I'm excited to be here with this powerhouse of ladies, and thank you, Nicole, for putting this together.
You're welcome. We are all honored to definitely have you and everyone on this panel. To answer your question, Alysha, the Facebook is streaming on my business page. So it's facebook.com/HTOHB. For some reason, it's not letting me chat, so I couldn't chat it. All right, ladies, let's get it popping. Let's dive into these questions. I know everybody's time is precious. The first question that I'll ask is, what does feminism mean to you? So this is purely subjective. You can kick us off, Lisa.
Oh, so much pressure being the first person. So
I'm going to reverse the order. I'm going to reverse the order at some point just to, take it up.
Okay. What does feminism mean to me? This has been really interesting ever since you were asking us these questions and I was preparing for this. I was like, I don't exactly know, so I looked at different definitions and everything. And I think for me, that's part of my own personal, like questioning whether or not I would consider myself a feminist. It really depends on the definition, right? So, I think in my mind, when I think of it more in terms of like political movement and kind of where it came from, like how it, originated back before I was even born, right? And kind of what developed from there. So I kind of think of it more in that historic sense. And so that's why it's a little bit hard for me to maybe connect with personally at this moment.
Thank you for your honesty. Audra?
And my kids are like coming in and out of here, so hopefully they'll cooperate. But yeah, so Nicole and I actually had a conversation about this, and I'm glad I have Jamia on here, so she's going to have to clean me up if I do it the wrong way. But I'm just going to talk about this as a layman, and I can totally appreciate what Lisa's saying. I know one of the first classes I took at undergrad was a women's studies class that talked about some of the historical nature, but I am by no means an expert on this. I think for me, when I think of feminism, I think of it in the context of being a woman in leadership, a woman of color in the workplace. And I've been, my first leadership position was actually in an evangelical institution where I was the youngest and only person of color and the only female. So that was my introduction to that. And I'm sure from those of you that have any familiarity with that, you can wonder how that went. So, that, but now I am on a leadership team, my vice president that has been coaching me since I was in my role as a female. The most senior people on my team are all female. And so I'm Episcopalian, long road from being evangelical. Like I tell people, I appreciate And I am talking about this in a religious context because for me, I think that's important to how I view it because it informs my point of view as well as what it means to live in America where white privilege and male privilege is still our story. I mean, we're making some progress, but that is the case. And all of that has impacted me. So for me, when I've heard the word feminism, it's often been weaponized. And it's been weaponized in a way to make women have to shun it away, to say, no, 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 don't affiliate me with that. I'm not crazy. I'm not a lesbian and I'm not, I'm not going to shave my hair off tomorrow and stop wearing bras and stop shaving and, hate all men, and all these things. And I don't want to cook or wear pink. And so for me, it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, I feel like whenever there's a movement, whether it's, civil rights, or we had the Black Panthers and people were critical with them or others, when there's people who are oppressed and trying to take a stand, it's not neat. Neither is the oppression. And so for me, for folks that are brave enough to stand up and say, hey, we have a problem here, you're not acting right. And I've had years and years of oppression. I'm talking about the United States, but around the world, some still there. Then, I don't care that it's messy. And I want to support it. So for me, I would certainly say that I am, but I feel like it's a broad spectrum. Just like I had to give the caveat about Christianity. If you say you're Christian, that's loaded for people. And so I have to often explain what of that expression I'm part of and what of that I don't affiliate with.
Thank you, Audra. And just to mention, I don't know if you mentioned your master's in theology. So that also adds to your insight.
Oh boy. Yeah. And it's so funny because I am probably, when outsider looking in, if people didn't know me, they'd probably think that I was some traditional female something or other. I'm not, I don't know. I don't think that people watching me outside looking in with that probably think that until recently. But yes, Nicole is right. I was also the only female in a master's divinity program. And so all of those things, I hate the thought that, and then I'm gonna leave it alone, but I hate the thought that somehow I'm not supposed to do something or have some opportunity just because I'm a female. I am 110% against that. And I have 3 daughters and I'm raising them the same way.
Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. Jennah?
I feel like this question is so simple yet so hard, right? So, and I love that we're approaching it from a subjective place. For me, what is feminism and to be a feminist? It's really a movement of equality for women. And I think, Audra, you're talking about, stereotypes in general, right? And so it's a question of the stereotypes of women. And I really it's something that's been a part of my journey as a business owner, as a woman. And it started right after college for me. I won't go into some long story, but what I want to share is that from my point of view, I first noticed the differences of being treated in the workplace in corporate America, right? It was like, holy crap, why does my check look like this, right? Or why am I being asked to do this when that's not a part of my job description, right? Or why am I being put in this category because I'm a young female, and being told, asked, or assumed certain things. And that's when I started to awaken to this concept. And I'm like, there's a serious problem here. I wasn't educated on that enough, not enough, just a little bit, right? You talk about the history, Lisa, but not enough in current day. And so, what does that look like? It looks like just a fight for equality. And I think the stereotype of hating men when you decide that you are, I'm a feminist, it means that we hate men. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's the biggest one to break down. That's not it at all. Can I live? Right? Can I live? I'm a woman, and can I live equally? So yeah, there's just so much here, but that's for me and my experience and how I've come into this. That's what I believe.
So my thoughts on, so the question is, am I a feminist? Was that the first one?
It was, what is your definition of a feminist, or what does feminism mean to you?
So I guess hearing a term, so in short, the short answer, I would say just being pro-woman. to keep it as simple as possible. Now, I will say that I think it is a loaded term, and it is one kind of like Audra mentioned, that when you're dealing with groups of people that have been oppressed, so we're looking really at power structures and how the term has been weaponized in a negative fashion, because it does like kind of mean all of those other things. Like when you hear of someone being a feminist, like, oh, you have this picture in mind, whether right or wrong, but it's just how we've been conditioned, or at least that's how I've been conditioned, or the types of things that I've been exposed to, where depictions of strong women are, when you see them, they're without feminine qualities, like other things that we would prize as being part of a woman. And so it's almost like if for a woman to embrace, her strength, her agency, gives a view of something wrong with her. She must kind of like, as they were just saying, like, well, she must hate men if this is what she's about, as opposed to a woman being able to embody qualities that are considered feminine and strength and, the ability to, to stand on her own, or to have a say in her body or what happens in her life, so those are my thoughts, just being pro-woman.
Similar to what Lisa said, I had to kind of look this up for myself, and like my own loose understanding of feminism, and like what is the reality of that. And definitely I feel like there's different brands of feminism that I think kind of muddies the water a little bit when you're trying to get a definition. But I think for me, it means to be able to have equal rights for women, equal value and significance in the world as women. I don't think, depending on the brand of feminism you're talking about, that means that men and women are equal, and that could be considered good or bad. But just more about the treatment of women, and that women deserve to be treated well. So that's how I would define it for me.
Yeah, I agree with your last statement there, in a sense of just equal rights for women compared to men, and being held in the same equality of those rights to live, to work, to play, to express, to walk, right, to do all those things. So I'll keep mine short, because I think all of you hit some really amazing points on the different brands, to your point, Esperanza, and really looking at what that means in different generations over time. And then, I don't know, I was going more towards that pro-woman, and then the more I listened to that, I was like, well, I know some men that are really pro-woman, but are they pro-women being equal? Right. And I think that's kind of get into the discussion of, like, I know a lot of men who are womenizers and they love women, but they're not pro women in a sense of us being equal to pay, to equal opportunities, to, being outside of a housewife. Right. And so I just kind of challenged when I first got the invite, I was like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this conversation, because I don't even use this word. But I signed up because I think it's important. I feel like just the different generations of us as women, especially women of color in these different spaces, is like, we're fighting not just one thing, we're fighting the wholeness of equality for humanity as a whole. But, I can go on and on. Nicole knows me, so we go back and forth all the time. But I think this is a really good discussion, in a sense of how things have evolved over generations.
I just want to piggyback like 1 second off of what Alysha said. I have met, especially in my field as a counselor, many men that would consider themselves to be feminists too. So I think sometimes that gets lost in the sauce too, that feminist is a theory, a philosophy. And so you don't have to be a woman to be a feminist. So just throw that out there.
And that's a good point. You guys all hit on some great things. I feel like I'm in good company, because I had to research myself. I know I'm the initiator of this conversation, but it really is because I'm still learning and processing my understanding of what that means to me. I've heard the word, quote unquote thrown around or used in these spheres. But I personally don't say that I identify as a feminist, but maybe it's because of my view of what that is. And I feel like my view was stemmed in more of the extreme versions of it. Now I'm learning that there's different facets of it. To your point, Hope, I did some research and they said that men can be feminists. It's not gender exclusive, apparently. So maybe even as we're growing and evolving, we're all learning like what this really means and taking the extremities out of it. I think I've always shied away from that term, and part of it is also my background and my faith, my spirituality. When we use the word equal, yes, I want equal rights for all, but do I think I can do everything a man can do? I don't. I think we have different roles, and I think we were created to function together and support each other. That kind of goes more into my own view of men and women relationships. So I think I'm still learning and growing, and I'm just picking the nuggets that you guys are throwing out there, and will continue doing studies myself. So thank you all for the first question. We clearly are not going to get through all these questions, but I'll throw out the next question. And if you guys don't mind, we can reverse the order just to kind of shake it up. So we can start with Alysha, Hope, Jamia, Jennah, Audra, and then Lisa. The next question would be, what is your definition of a strong woman? And is that different than a feminist? And so my underlying question is like, can you be considered a strong woman without being considered a feminist? So whatever your thoughts are on those items.
Oh man. See, the good thing about panels, you can kind of tuck in and learn from them that go before you. So now that I'm on the hot seat, I can't really piggyback off of anybody else. But I do, to answer your question, I do think you can possibly identify as both. I was raised by very strong women. We lacked strong men in our family. And it was the strong woman that I believe that who I become because of that, of how I was raised. But I wasn't raised as a feminist, right? So that word never was in my community, in the communities that I came from, the culture. But strong woman was. So for me, I've always identified more as a strong woman aside from being a feminist. I think the more I got educated, the more I learned what that was, and the fight for women equality kind of made me like, oh, I could see myself over here a little bit too, but I don't think you have to choose and or. I think it's just a lot of things that come with that word over time. But as a strong woman, for me, I think a lot of things can describe that. And I feel like sometimes as a feminist, you're just, that word holds so much negative connotation that it's been through so much. So I've always just been able to identify more as a strong woman just because that's how I was raised and raised by other strong women. So hope that answers your question directly.
It does.
Thanks, Alysha. I feel the same with you. Like, oh man, now I'm up at the top of the list. But that being said, I definitely see a difference between strong women and feminists, like how I would define them. I would define a feminist as someone advocating for women's rights, where I would see a strong woman, at least in my experience. And, like you said, Alysha, my own experience have kind of shaped how I see things. But I definitely would see a strong woman, at least the ones in my family, improving the whole community and not just for women. It definitely is also not lost on me, like when the intersection with feminism and racism, so that you could advocate for women's rights, but not necessarily women of color. So, and that's like a historical challenge I think the movement has. So I identify more with a strong woman myself versus a feminist, because I've seen a strong woman just go through obstacle after obstacle and just make sure they're getting things done, and they're holding their families together, they're holding their communities together, where I feel like a feminist is more singular focus. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but they're not necessarily looking at the whole community.
So, strong woman, what comes to mind is just the women that have gone before me and my family, like behind me. You can't really see it. I can reach back here and I have this this little plaque that says, I got it from my mama. Like we have this discussion a lot, her and I, like, okay, what are those things, those qualities that I get from her, that she embodies. But just when I think of the women that have come before me and my family, they just get things done. The women in my family get things done and done well. And what you gonna say about it? Like it's like that, they embody just this incredible strength. Yeah. So I hope that is something that I'm walking in, as I continue to grow and continue on with my life, and just something that I can inspire, and the younger women in my family as well. In terms of, is that different than the term feminist? I'd like a couple of interesting points have come up. I think another thing to consider is that when we hear the word feminism, it's like words have power, so like who we allow to use what language matters. And so to Esperanza's point of like, well, it is important to talk about the intersection of feminism and racism, because that has been an issue that has haunted, the feminist movement, so to speak, in terms of equal rights. And specifically, I'm thinking about the women's suffrage movement. But there were issues within the movement because women of color, which there were Black women, Asian women, Native American women, women of Hispanic origins as well, who were involved in the suffrage movement. And that was something that I did not even know, the extent of that until recently. Like I knew Black women were involved in it, but I was not aware of the other groups. But I think that is something that has plagued the feminism movement for so long, even down to looking at shortly after Trump's inauguration, there was a March on Washington with women. And I don't remember exactly when that happened, but I just remember just a number of the articles that I read around that time, and just looking at some of the coverage and just looking at how, I guess I'll say, at who was represented and how as being a part of that movement. So I feel like this is kind of all scattered what I'm saying, but that's what I got. That's what I got. So, but I think so. I guess the question that I would ask or throw back is like, well, who do we allow to use what language? Because to Alysha's point, feminist, like that isn't anything that I grew up saying or anything that we even use now. Like if anything, it's come up in terms of like looking at things historically, or if I'm going to bring things up for my students and wanting to put it in that context. But it's not even a word that's like, that I would say is a part of my everyday vocabulary, but strong women, most definitely.
Can you say the question again?
No problem. So what do you feel like a strong woman is to you? What's your definition of a strong woman? And is that different from a feminist? Can you be a strong woman and not a feminist?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I feel like the two are not mutually exclusive, right? Like from the perspective of feminism has its own definitions, right? I think you said, Alysha, where you said the word's been through so much. I was just like, ooh, that's good. Yes, because it's skewed and it means something different to all of us. And I think the same thing goes for what defines a strong woman too. That's subjective, right? And I think we innately kind of look into our closest examples of what we know to be what represents a strong woman. Like my mom and I don't have the best relationship but when I think about her, I think about that's a strong woman right there who's also not a feminist. And so like I like to think like, yeah, I'm a strong woman as well. I am a feminist. And to that point that yes, in my opinion, you can be one and not the other. Also, yes, you can be both. But I think it just depends on what the definition is and how you're defining it. Both words and then both words collectively,
Whew. We've concluded our discussion of part 1 of Are You a Feminist? And since you've joined the conversation, I'm sure you can see why we needed to split these talks up into parts. I kid you guys not, every Girl Talk discussion, I'm taking mental notes. The insight I gained from this episode is that our personal backgrounds, faith, family, upbringing, life experiences, play a huge role in shaping the way we perceive something as multifaceted as feminism. For some, it's a word that inspires empowerment and equality. For others, it carries a tension rooted in cultural teachings or family perspectives that can be hard to untangle. During our conversation, we confronted those contrasts head-on. One of the most vulnerable moments came as we reflected on how family influences our understanding of feminist ideals. Feminism wasn't a word we used at home. Instead, we were taught about being a strong woman, several of the panelists shared. Even now, 2 years later, you guys, I still wrestle with the complexity of where feminism intersects with race and with the more extreme perspectives within the feminist landscape. But what comforted me from the discussion was that there is no one-size-fits-all in the definition of being a feminist. We can eat the meat and leave the bones, so to speak. What I appreciate most about Girl Talk is that we hold space for each other. Everyone's willingness to engage in vulnerable, authentic dialogue and share from a place of raw, personal experience is rare, but it's so needed. These conversations aren't easy. They require peeling back layers of conditioning, sometimes confronting uncomfortable truths about ourselves, or even our communities and family upbringings. But hopefully, new connections are forged, along with a reminder that there isn't just one way to understand life or to live it authentically. If I could leave you guys with one thought, it would be this: keep questioning. Keep sitting with the new forms of thought that enter your life. We are hopefully forever changing and evolving into our highest selves. And as a friend recently told me, we're allowed to change our minds. As you meditate and reflect, I'll leave you with these thought-provoking questions. How does faith and family background affect your view of the word feminism and its meaning? Did you identify with individuals who had an extreme view of the feminist movement? What are your thoughts surrounding the intersection of race in the feminist movement? Do you find yourself straddling the fence on using the word to define yourself, or are you deeply rooted on either side? Make sure to tune in to part 2 of this meaty topic. And remember, I attract amazing women doing amazing things. So guess what, sis? That means you're amazing. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. To continue the conversation, join our Girl Talk community by following @GirlTalkCLE on Instagram and Facebook.com/HTOHB, where you can join the Girl Talk Facebook group. You can follow me personally on Instagram @HTOHB, on Facebook.com/HTOHB, and at YouTube.com/@HTOHB. Feel free to reach out via email info@indiemillerpublishing.com. If you're a writer who wants to take the next steps into becoming a published author, you can book a one-on-one consultation at indiemiller.pub. Just let me know you heard about my publishing house through Girl Talk, and I'll give you a 50% discount on our one-on-one. If you'd like weekly inspirational nuggets, you can subscribe to my blog and monthly newsletter at NicoleDmiller.com, where you can learn more about me and my writings. Till next time.